First off, I'd like to thank everyone who came today during your lunch hours. I know a lot of you would like to be eating right now, and so I appreciate that. It's great to have you. It's great to have a nice full group here. My name's Pasquale DeMaio, and I'm the general manager for Amazon Connect, which is Amazon's contact center in the cloud from the AWS offering of services. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about our integration with Salesforce and how you can use Amazon's cloud-based contact center with Salesforce's Service Cloud or Sales Cloud. I think we're really going to focus mostly on Service Cloud today. And to help me with that, actually, I have who I think is really the star of the show, Lauren Lacey. And he is one of the people leading the efforts and the implementation of both Salesforce and Amazon Connect at Intuit. And so I'm just going to get started right now and tell you guys a little bit about Amazon Connect, just for some background. I assume most folks here are AWS, are Salesforce users. Anyone mind raising your hand if you're a Salesforce user? Okay, so that's a good sign. So how many of you have a contact center today already with and using telephony? Most of you? Awesome, terrific. So at Amazon, I think we probably faced a lot of the same challenges you do, wanting to build great customer service. We have a stated goal to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. And to do that, you need a great contact center. We looked about 10 years ago to see if we could find something that met our needs in the industry. And at that time, we just couldn't. And so we embarked down the journey of building what we thought would be the true delivery of what we needed to be able to engage with customers consistently, at scale, with great elasticity, and with great reliability and security. It wasn't easy, but 8 years later, we had something we thought was pretty good for us. At that time, we went and we started talking to customers about different things they might be interested in. And one of the things that came up is a lot of customers told us they had the same challenge, which was it was hard for them to configure their contact centers and maintain them and get the elasticity, the scalability, the reliability, and the security they wanted. And so at that point, we decided maybe this is something we should offer as an AWS product. Are folks here familiar with AWS from Amazon? So AWS is our cloud-based offering. It's using a lot of the same tools we used internally and then bringing them out and offering them so people can build scalable web services on top of them and scalable applications on top of them in the cloud. I'm sorry for those of you who know all this already, but I always want to make sure because sometimes at Salesforce events, folks are not as familiar with AWS as you might expect them to be when I talk to more of an AWS crowd. I promise not to belabor things so much as we move forward. In any case, Amazon Connect was born and released a year and about 3 months ago in March last year. And at the core of it, it's a contact center. It has telephony built in. It has skills-based routing, all the things you would expect from a quality contact center, call recording, real-time and historical analytics. Amazon is a very, very heavily analytics-driven company, data-driven company. And so we need to be able to understand exactly what our agents are doing, what our customers are doing all the time. And then it has great high-quality voice, using the Opus codec, which is designed for low latency. And so often our agents will tell us they really like the fact that they can hear customers really well, and it improves that experience for both the customer and for the agent. And happy agents are much better agents typically. There are a few things about Amazon Connect that are differentiated beyond the fact that it's cloud-based and can handle the scale of Amazon.com's contact centers, which will go as high as 75,000 active agents. So one of them is the interaction. And a lot of folks think a lot about the contact center and deflection and experience and containment. We don't think so much about that in AWS and with Amazon Connect. We think more about improving that experience. Today, automation is often press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, and then moving into ASR, press or say 1, or maybe some level of NLU, which is maybe say, how can I help you? But the reality is often when your customers call, and if you're using Salesforce, you probably know a lot more about that customer than just that. And you probably can do a lot better. And so we like to think about how do you take what is automation, which may be a dirty word to some customers, and instead of having being something that degrades their experience with you, something that improves it. And I'm going to show you an example here, a little demo of what that might look like if you start using that data you already have access to.
Hi, Nikki Wolf. I see your flight was canceled today. How can I help you?
Can you please rebook me for the same flight tomorrow?
Okay, You are now booked for a 9 a.m. departure tomorrow out of San Francisco, arriving in Seattle at 11:45 a.m.
Great, thank you.
So you can see from the beginning, you know about the customer because you're doing a data dip into a CRM like Salesforce, and you might do a data dip into some other back-end services. And in Amazon Connect, that's a really simple thing to do. We have a service that's designed just to do nothing but that, and it's very, very flexible. So you can access virtually any back-end service and pull any data set that it can offer to you. And then we bring that right back into what we call our contact flows. We think of them as maybe an IVR on steroids. I also like to call it a process engine that happens to be very good at talking to customers. And so if you think about it that way, what you're really trying to do is solve the customer's problem. In this scenario, you can imagine this customer is probably happier when they finish this call, having gone through the automated experience, because it was so much faster than it would have been to wait for someone to typically explain what you're doing, give all of the details you need to. And that actually generates an improved experience. We always think at Amazon that whenever someone calls us, even if they come with a problem, we always want them to leave feeling better about Amazon, not worse. But there's also situations where maybe automation isn't going to quite get where you want. And so you can imagine a scenario here where at the end of this, maybe Nikki is not quite as happy as she should be and says something like, hey, maybe you could sweeten the pot here a little bit and offer me an upgrade on this flight since, you had to cancel my flight today. And maybe this means you have to send this person over to an agent. Well, the key to that is really, can you bring that information with you? And the answer is yes. We built it to make it very simple for you to pass all of the context of that conversation directly over to the agent, all the details of what they were trying to do, what you offered them, and then the agent can start not from scratch, but instead saying, hey, my name's Alan, how can I help you? And again, removing this friction both makes the agent's life a lot better. They don't have to ask all those questions again that they know the customer doesn't want to be asked again. And then they also get to start writing right into the problem. And so these are the kind of things we think are going to be really driving the future of how people think about contact centers, especially how they think about automation, but also how they think about agents. You're taking the simple, low, heavy weight, but low value operations off the agent's plate, and you're really moving these high value things where the agent's being a human being, where the agent interacting is really solving problems for customers and improving that customer experience. So talking a little bit more about this, how does it all work? Because obviously everyone comes out and they always promise the world. When I talk a little bit about what makes Amazon on AWS's offerings different is we offer a broad platform and a broad set of services, infrastructure services that allow you to do a lot of things that can't really be matched by someone who's just focused on only the contact center. I'll give you an example. How many folks here use call recordings? We certainly use them at Amazon to improve the quality of our agents and to help them get better. In the history of most contact centers, those call recordings would end up in what could be called the walled garden. They'd be hard to access, they'd be expensive, the storage was expensive. At Amazon, we offer a service called S3. S3 is actually the largest storage service in the world. It has many, many customers use it for all different types of storage. And every day we're improving S3 as a generic storage platform, adding new retention policies, new tools to be able to move things around to control access. And S3 gets better every time they ship a new feature. Well, I put all my call recordings, all of our call recordings, directly into an S3 bucket, we call it, basically a folder that you own. So now those call recordings that should have been yours from the beginning are fully under your control. So if you want to use some of the tools we offer, we have a service called Transcribe, where you can take them and transcribe all the text of the call recording. We offer a service called Comprehend. You can run sentiment analysis on those call recordings and see what's happening and understand if it was a good or bad experience, and then look for problems or see if people, look for speech patterns you want to capture and go check those call recordings specifically, for example. But you can also, because these are in a generic S3 bucket, you can point any other tool you want at them, CallMiner, something else. It's completely up to you because, again, you own that data. It's not under our control, it's under your control. And as we talk about this, you're going to see that be a theme throughout all of our conversations. So jumping in here, I'm going to talk a little about the contact flows. As I mentioned, I think of them really as a process engine that happens to be good at communicating with customers. Well, what makes you good at communicating with customers? Obviously, clarity of speech. We have a high-quality text-to-speech engine called Polly. That powers all of our text-to-speech. It's improving all the time. Again, it's a general purpose text-to-speech engine, so it's always getting better. Every time they add features, Amazon Connect gets a little bit better. Then, of course, after you've got the quality of speech going out, the understanding coming in. We offer our Lex bots. How many folks here have an Amazon Echo? So you guys have seen the investment we've made in the care we care about creating this, and really the belief in natural language understanding, and the fact that we think people are going to be talking more in the future, not less. I think there are different times for different types of communication, but voice is not going anywhere. Well, our deep investment in the Alexa product that powers those Echoes and other Alexa devices allows us to create a standalone service that you can use. So now you can create your own, essentially, Alexa-type experience using a system called Lex. So you can choose voices, you can choose languages. Sorry, that's probably where you choose the voice and language. On Lex, the input comes in, and then it's processed as NLU, and then we come back. So we do the speech recognition, then we process it in NLU, and we bring back intents and slots and information. So for example, when she says, I'd like to change my flight to one tomorrow at 10 a.m., you say, what's she trying to do? The intent is to change her flight. And then she wants to do it, a slot would be at 10 a.m. and tomorrow, so you know when she wants to make that change. And you can say those complex speech patterns, or if you want to, you can actually say, I want to change my flight. And because you didn't find out to when she wants to change it, you can have your bot automatically just ask back, I'd like to do it at, what time would you like to do it? And then she can say 10 a.m., what day, tomorrow, and it will understand that. And it understands the context enough that not only does it know that's 10 a.m. and a day, but it can say, I know what day today is, so I know what day tomorrow is, so you don't have to say things like September 27th. So all this makes that a much easier experience. But the reality is all this information is probably not in your contact center, right? You probably don't have your entire, in this case, your flight engine is probably not in the contact center. And also you probably don't have all your customer information in the contact center, it's in Salesforce. And you also probably have a bunch of other databases and other systems where that stuff is. And that's where we get to this tool called Lambda. And again, Lambda is a tool that is not just for the contact center. It's designed specifically to allow you to make calls to run what we call serverless compute. You don't have to set up any hardware. You don't even have to set up a server in the cloud. All you do is pick out what code snippet you want to run, and that code snippet can then call back to virtually any backend service you have. So you can imagine I want to make a call into Salesforce. You just very easily write a piece of code in a popular programming language, a modern programming language. You don't have to learn something proprietary to Amazon or proprietary to Salesforce. It's just, boom, I'm going to use normal coding. I hire someone who's just a developer. I don't have to find that one person who knows how to use COBOL and and Fortran. And that person can then create this integration for you, and you can call it from directly within this contact flow. And the nice thing about that is, one, I can pull all this information in. So I can say, oh, well, now I know the person's name. That's how it says, hi, Nikki Wolf, how are you? But I can also write stuff back out again really easily. So I can say, oh, well, this person wanted to change their flight information. So now I'm going to write to Salesforce that this contact was about flight changing information. And all of that gives you the power to have all of your systems connected. And it's much faster. One thing I should note about this, all self-service. So you don't need to come ask us to turn it on. You don't need to come ask us to set it up. You're empowered to set it up yourself. In fact, we often run boot camps that are 2-day events. And by the end of the first day, you have a full contact center running that's capable of scaling to the size of an Amazon.com contact center usage. And it already has a LexBot working. So you guys will walk out. I like to say, come in with a laptop, walk out with a contact center. And the thing about that is, obviously, setting up a contact center the first time is hopefully not something you're doing every day. But the reality is you want to make changes. And I've met a lot of customers who are very frustrated because they couldn't. And so they end up with things that don't work well, that customers don't like, but they're afraid to touch because it's too fragile. It's too hard to move back and forth, or it's just too much work to understand it, or too long to wait to find that person who could implement it. Well, in this case, again, it's the business person, because it's a self-service and a graphical interface. The business person can often change all the things they need to within this contact flow and then press submit, and boom, it's in production. You want to do A/B testing. Maybe you want to say, well, I want to see if this contact flow is better than the one I had before. Well, we have an A/B block directly in there. Just drag and drop it in there and link to one contact flow that you already have. Say I want to take 1%, 10%, 50% of my traffic, send it to a different contact flow. And you can do that in a matter of just minutes, and you've got that up and running. Decide that contact flow is not working, go back, set it back to 0, hit submit, and now you've turned it off again. And so that power takes a lot of the pain and the weight away from the people who are trying to make your contact center better, your business decision leaders. It also allows your technology people to be able to say yes instead of no, which every time I go talk to customers, I meet people who are wanting to build these amazing things and feel constrained and they can't do it. And so the thing that always makes me happiest is when I hear feedback from folks like, oh, I took this thing we wanted to change and I thought it was going to take us a month and $50,000 and we did it in 2 days. And the joy, like the real joy I see from people is what makes me the most excited about my job. So I think that this change in the mental model about how we think about creating contact centers and the experiences the customer has, bringing them back, making them natural, dynamic, easy, I think that's going to be the way we think about this from here on out. And I think it's going to change the way you guys think about how you interact with your customers, if you choose to come on this journey with us, of course. So coming back to the integration points here, the business intelligence, the customer databases, the CRM data, all of that plays into that experience, that automated experience. But then when you want to talk to a customer, you want to have an experience that actually plugs directly into Salesforce, right? So your agent, when you want to talk to an agent, when your agent's talking to that customer, they don't feel like they're in two different programs. It feels very natural. And so what happens is we plug directly into the CTI interface of Salesforce, and we pop up a little window that says, hey, you have an incoming call. Do you want to accept it? Looks like you're just using Salesforce normally. And then you hit accept, and you can even skin it to make it look differently if you want to. You don't have to do that, but some folks do. And so if you have special scenarios you want to enable, there's a lot of customization there. Not necessary if you want to have just a very good, highly integrated experience, but very powerful if you want to add more things that the agent might be able to do. Additionally, we can do screen pops, pop up that new experience, even as you move through the experience, do different screen pops along the way, so that agent's always doing the next best thing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the back end here again. I touched on the call recordings because that's one that people can always understand really quickly. But I talked about it being your S3 storage location where you really control how long you keep it there, what you're doing with it, how you interact with it. We take the same approach with the metrics. I talked about us being a highly metrics-driven company at AWS and at Amazon. We look at what our contact center is doing all the time, and we are always striving to make it better. Where are customers struggling? Where are customers doing well? What do they like? What do they not like? What took longer? What took less time? And you might do all of that inside the contact center, but you're probably not going to because there's probably other data lakes you guys have. How many folks here are dealing with more data lakes than you would prefer today? And so what we've done here is we make it so, yes, you can keep the metrics in Amazon Connect, and we'll keep them there for you for 2 years. But you can also stream our most detailed metric records directly into your own data lake of your choice, so you can join them with what other data you want. And so again, it's not our data, it's your data. And that brings us to the last piece here, which is workforce management. And how many people here have a contact center of more than 100 people? So I'm guessing most of you have some form of workforce management beyond just a spreadsheet. I would say Excel is still one of the top workforce management tools out there I've seen, but I'm guessing a number of you guys are using third-party tools or something you maybe built yourself even. We have we'll stream the agent data directly into that. We can also send files out for legacy systems that prefer that file-based system, but we know you guys need to have good access to that agent data. So again, getting the data out of the system is easy and straightforward. There's no walled gardens where we're trying to keep it in. Instead, we want you guys to be empowered to use it the way you want to. I don't think there's anybody in here, as much as you guys were saying you have all your data warehouses. My hope is those are decreasing, but I think the amount of data in them is going to increase quite a bit as you guys learn more and more about your customers and get more and more analytic in that. It's certainly what we've seen in our customer service. So I talked a little bit about our integration point. Aside from that, the contact flow pieces, that CTI adapter, we're actually doing a launch today. And so we are now increased the capabilities of it quite a bit. So again, it's a pre-built integration. So you can just go into App Exchange and install it. When Lightning Flow is released, you'll be able to install it via that mechanism as well. And then it handles voice, it handles click-to-call and screen pops, and that's been there since we were launched. But today we added a bunch of new features. We have omnichannel support within Salesforce, so using their omnichannel architecture. We've added a bunch of new screen pop capabilities. I talked about being able to pop different things depending on what the agent's doing or what's happening in the system. We've integrated the IVR data dips to make them straightforward, so you don't even have to necessarily do the Lambda coding yourself. We've given you the samples, so you don't even have to hire somebody for that. And then call logging and recording now automatically be populated into Salesforce, so you can play back your calls and see your calls in the Salesforce UI as well. And then case management, so we can impact and move cases along for you, help you do your cases automated. This is now much, much easier. Single sign-on support, so you can log into just Salesforce. And we have a couple more features we're working on now. Voice transcriptions that get loaded into the case automatically. So if you run, so as the call is recorded, eventually we will publish these directly back into the system. So you have so you have access to those transcripts within Salesforce. And then also more integrated reporting, which I think all of you guys would like if you're using Salesforce for a lot of your reporting today. And of course, if you're not, we have all those other options as well. So at this point, I'd like to hand it over to, I think, the person who's probably more interesting, because their experience is hopefully very much aligned to the things you guys are trying to do, and you can get that customer perspective here. So if you don't mind, Lauren, I'll pass the mic to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pasquale. So for those of you who don't know Intuit, you might know us by some of our popular programs of QuickBooks or TurboTax or Mint. And we have a mission is powering prosperity around the world. And really, I want to talk about what Salesforce does. Our products do amazing things in delivering on that mission. But I wanted to talk about two key things that Salesforce and the Amazon Connect platform do to help our customer success organization deliver on that promise as well. And it's really the ability to rapidly run experiments and to innovate, as well as to take data and personalize the customer experience. So I want to talk a little bit about rapid experimentation. So Intuit uses a design methodology called customer-driven innovation or design for delight. And part of that is a methodology where you say, don't come up with a survey, actually go build a lightweight experiment, put it in front of a customer and look and see what they do, use the data from actual customers to then drive the decisions about whether to keep that experiment or whether to pivot and work on a new experiment. The ProConnect group actually in 2018 set out a bold goal to run 100 experiments in the customer success organization, the customer care organization. And they, I think, really embody this whole ability to take that challenge on and do it in not only do they do it in the product, but also in the customer care organization. One of the ones that they did was they took a Salesforce attribute that identified a certain segment of customers, and they routed them to a group of agents that were able to, kind of train to deal with that specific set of customers. And they were able to drive increased customer satisfaction within that segment, our most influential and valuable customers. So it was a really great outcome for that. Another one was even before we had officially onboarded that group onto Amazon Connect, they were actually using Amazon Connect to run some experiments. They had built out some IVR flows that they were thinking about changing. They used Polly to speak the prompts. They got customers into the flow, and then they asked that, they kind of watched what they did and then asked them, did they understand what it was? Did they end up at the right place where we thought that they were supposed to go? And only after they had iterated and changed the wording and the prompt order and all that stuff, did they load it into the system and then do all the professional recording of all of the prompts. So it was able to really iterate really, really quickly and come up with something rather than putting it out there and then finding out, gosh, customers aren't ending up where we thought that they would, and then have to go through this whole process again. So it helped us keep true to that lightweight experiment to be able to do that. In addition to that, Amazon Connect has really enabled us to have some other key successes as we've been on this journey. So normally when we do a telephony onboarding, we would roll it out in North America first because of the connectivity complexity and the amount of coordination, and we like to kind of keep it local before we start expanding out there. But with Amazon Connect, from day one, we were live in North America, EMEA, and APAC. And a lot of that is because Amazon had done all of the heavy lifting for us, and in terms of the managed networks that you have to have, in terms of, there was no equipment that we needed to ship to Intuit offices or our partner sites and take care of all that stuff. So it was great to do that. This also is going to set us up to be able to move really, really quickly. If the business wants to bring on a new partner or in an existing partner bring on a new site, to deal with our growth. We don't have to, have 6 to 9 months of lead time to plan out just the managed network part of that. You're able to use internet connectivity, which is a lot more easy to increase and provision. We have real-time call metrics now, quality metrics on our call. And so we've instrumented end-to-end monitoring on this. We've set up some alerts, and we're able to now proactively reach out to the business if we see that there are call quality problems that are maybe isolated to a specific partner or maybe a specific site. And that's then the operations teams can take action to be able to protect the customer experience until we can figure out what exactly is going on. Versus hearing the calls and the complaints from the customer, it finally rolls in and comes up to us. We're able to now proactively reach out to them and say, hey, looks like we're having problems. Able to do the rapid development. So a few days before an onboarding, one of our business units uncovered a use case that was about how they needed to specifically pause the call recordings. It was something that we hadn't uncovered in the requirements gathering and the whole planning and all of this stuff. And normally, this would have derailed the whole thing. But because of the flexibility of the platform, in 24 hours, we were able to have a prototype up and running that we were able to show the business. And in 3 weeks, we had it implemented in production. So it delayed the onboarding a few days, but it didn't disrupt the entire larger program for it and allowed us to keep moving forward. Great win for it. And a lot of that was what Pasquale mentioned earlier, is because it's built on common platforms. We didn't have to find the proverbial purple squirrel developer who knows this proprietary language and understands the call flow and all this stuff. We can draw from the talents of a lot larger engineering pool. So it's really been able to help us not only continue to develop and implement, but also keep experimenting with that. So where are we headed? We started our journey in May 2018. To date, we have onboarded 2 of our 4 business units. The agents love our new the audio quality. It's a thing that we hear over and over again, is how much better the audio quality is over our current system. They also have commented on how intuitive the call control panel is inside of Salesforce. One of the key things that I love about it is our current system, that every button that you can possibly use is crammed into that little tiny CTI space. Well, you don't need a transfer button if you're not on a call. You don't need a hold, if you're on a chat, you don't need a hold button. Amazon has designed this in a really thoughtful way so that the only time a transfer button shows up is when you're actually on a call or a mute thing. And so it reduces the complexity. It makes it really elegant for that. We have real-time visibility. I mentioned this before. That's a key thing, not only in the call quality, but actually the health and the performance of the system. We're now able to see, everything that's going on in the platform. And in fact, one of our developers commented that Amazon really can't see anything more than what we can already see. Like, they've exposed every little single piece of data, so there is no, extra data that they have back in their operations center that they can see that we can't see, which we love to have that visibility as well. And it's really an open platform that we can experiment on. Our journey needs to be done by July 2019. That's when our legacy system is going away, and we will have 100% of our sales and care organization on there. By that time, we'll have demonstrated that we can operate and scale a platform for our tax season, which is the equivalent of Black Friday and all those kind of things for retail organizations to do that. But really excited about where we're headed. We're also leveraging the larger AWS ecosystem. So we have active experiments with Amazon Recognition and Transcribe. We're looking forward to some more advanced experiments that we're planning and beginning to run with the machine learning and some of the analytics. And I'm sure in reInvent, 100 other new things are going to be introduced in the ecosystem that we'll be able to take advantage of. And it's one of the things I really like, is that you kind of get all of that Amazon ecosystem stuff for free. Intuit in general uses a lot of the AWS infrastructure already. So we have a lot of key pieces that we can use both inside and outside the contact center. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Pasquale to follow up and close us out here.
Terrific. Thank you so much. So there's a bunch of stuff to do here that we'll talk about in a second in terms of fun things. But the first one, come visit our booth. We'd love to talk to you if you want to get a demo. I think we have some cool Alexa demos with integration set up there, and also just a bunch of other fun stuff. You can see how easy it is to create a contact flow. You can look at how the Alexa integration works, and you see the things you'd be doing yourselves if you were the ones who were setting it up. And I have no doubt that every single person in this room could have a contact center actually take their first call within 5 minutes, and then have a contact center doing cool things and playing with it within hours if that was something you're interested in. The other great thing, if you come by the booth, we'd be happy to introduce you to someone who can tell you when one of those boot camps is. If you guys want to try and attend, come and do one of those intensive 2-day trainings. They're really fun. They're not painful. Everyone usually we get some of the highest scores of all of AWS and our feedback on them because it's so hands-on. But it's something everyone can come along and do. You don't have to be a technical expert. You can be one, but you don't have to be one.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. That was actually one of the things that we really loved is when we were starting out, we had a lot of our business users come and attend this 2-day session. And no joke, they came with their laptops and they left with working contact centers in less than the first. Well, they had them done in the first day, and we iterated and did some other stuff in the second day of the session. So it's not just marketing fluff and Salesforce, Dreamforce kind of marketing.
Yeah, and you guys can, and the fun thing about that is you can make your own contact center as well, and then you can have all your friends call up. Press 1 to get drinks, press 2 to see if we can go to dinner, press 3 if you owe me money. So those are all. Press 4 if if I owe you money. Oops, that one just disconnects. But you guys, it's a lot of fun. And of course, we're doing some free giveaways and stuff like that, and we don't mind if that's the only reason you come over, but please come by. We also have some other fun stuff going on here. We have an official trailhead now. It's there's the Amazon-Connect at the end of the sfdc.co short link there. And then we also can just go to the Amazon page. We have a page that shows us there. We have some of our references, so you can see some other customers as well who have come on board. We've got some really fun ones, and we'll be announcing even more this year. Both big and small, folks who are very, very aggressive with using NLU, and folks who aren't aggressive at all with NLU, but just love the fact that they can have their agents connected to in really efficient ways as well. We have another workshop today. You can come by and check this out. This one is hands-on and shows you how to do it. It's not quite as in-depth as one of those long all-day ones, obviously, but it would give you some flavor for it. And the nice thing about that one is the person who actually built the Amazon Connect and Salesforce integration will actually be there for that talk, and so that's a really fun one. And then if you guys, for whatever reason, hopefully you don't have to, but if you do end up having to call the customer experience center here, it's 877 DF Ohana, but that is actually powered by Amazon Connect and Salesforce integration. So that's kind of a cool, fun one for us to be able to support that here. And again, hopefully you won't have to call, but if you do, it's great. And I think that brings us to the end of the prepared stuff. I think we have a few more minutes. We can take a few questions if you guys have any. If not, we can step outside if you guys have questions that are more of the in-depth or private. You want to dig into some stuff, we can do that as well. But does anyone here have any questions for us? Wow, that was easy. Does everyone here feel like they have the feeling of that the fact that this is really talking about empowering you and being able to do new things? Anyone here have an idea of the number one thing they would change in their contact center if they could wave a magic wand in terms of the experience? What would it be? The quality of what? The agents, the quality of the experience?